Now, our first speaker today is doing just that for the team collaboration panel. Let's welcome Steve to the lectern with his speech, Reflections. Take it away, Steve.
December is the time for reflection, especially as we approach the end of the calendar year. In pathways, there's also a time for reflection after we complete a path. And that's what I'm doing today, as Charlie said, reflecting on the team collaboration path that I actually completed in July. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I realized I should have already done this speech, but here we are. It is what it is. And the main thing this path has underscored for me is that Toastmasters is an educational program, not just a public speaking program. And let me tell you, I've learned a lot. I've learned quite a bit in 2021 as I worked this path and served as the District 40 Public Relations Manager. Now, one of the key projects in this path for me was the Lead in Any Situation project. I did the speech for this project back in July of this year. I applied this project to my PRM role, my Public Relations Manager role. And I was able, with the help of the 360 evaluation from all the people I worked with, to review how that went. There were some challenges that, honestly, I didn't quite measure up to, such as reviving the tired, stale, public-facing district website that we had, and then adding landing pages to that website. But there were other things that my team and I did accomplish that I was proud of. One was creating a totally new, member-focused, exciting District 40 website, thanks to Arlen. And another was providing critical Zoom support during the virtual district conference in 2020, thanks, among other people, to Rick Seabury. Now, during my time as Public Relations Manager for the last Toastmasters year, I also did a bi-monthly newsletter and started a weekly news bulletin to publish time-sensitive information for members of the district. And those have both been hugely successful. But notice the pronoun I used there. I did this and not we. So the main takeaway from this project, Leading in Any Situation, the main takeaway for me is that leadership is more about leading and less about doing. Now, I tend to be a great doer. I need to work more on being a leader. Now, that premise goes along with the speech I did in October of 2020, about 4 months into my first term as Public Relations Manager. Now, I mentioned in that speech that I realized with this new district role, a big role, it was physically impossible for me to do everything that needed to be done. So I had to learn 3 lessons very quickly. First, as a leader, I must work through people. Second, as a leader, I must work with people. And third, as a leader, I must work with people where they are. I realized from that project that my default leadership style, and that's the project, Understanding Your Leadership Style, my default leadership style works better with team members who know what they're doing, they're confident in doing their jobs, and I just let them loose. My default leadership style doesn't work as well for those who need coaching and mentoring and hand-holding as they become more productive members of the team. That's something I had to learn from this particular project. But speaking of leadership styles, I had another project called Motivate Others that I had to work on. And what I talked about for this particular project is that my leadership style is not the cheerleader style. I did a speech titled 2, 4, 6, 8 and emphatically pointed out that I am not a cheerleading type leader. I mentioned that immediate past district director, Gene Bailey, he is such a leader. He focuses on people. He cheers them on. Me, I tend to focus on results. And at the district level, I've learned that part of what I need to be is a cheerleader. So I'm working on that. Now, I haven't gone out and bought the pom-poms yet, and you won't see me with ribbons with pigtails in my hair, but I feel like I'm making progress in that area. Another lesson that I've learned while working this path is that sometimes managing up is much more difficult than managing down. Now, as the public relations manager, I've assembled a team, and I'm more of a middle level or maybe upper middle level manager. And I found that in the Toastmasters hierarchy, sometimes it's easier to manage people that I'm working with on my team than it is to manage up to the top 3 members of the district, to our trios, what we call them. Now, one of the more difficult challenges I had when I was first coming on as public relations manager was defining my own role and responsibilities and setting boundaries on what I would do and what I would not do in relation to the district trio. So I talked about this in a speech last December, in a speech called Not Your Secretary, for the Successful Collaboration Project. And the main issue I tried to get across in that speech is that I was being treated as the secretary for the trio, and that's not what a public relations manager does. So again, lesson had to learn 3 steps. Understand the issue. Well, I had to get that in my brain. Articulate it clearly to the trio, diplomatically, and sometimes I have to work on doing it diplomatically. And third, after articulating it, I need to talk with the people involved, the trio, and with them develop solutions to what we were dealing with. And that worked. So in conclusion, let me say this path has been very educational, very informative for me. And it has allowed me to work out and work on some of the issues I have with being a leader. I have certain strengths, but I have certain challenges too. And this path really challenged me. Now look at some of the names of the projects that I've mentioned. Lead in any situation. Understanding your leadership style. Motivate others. Successful collaboration. Now, sometimes I tend to be a lone ranger and go off and do my thing and get things done. I do a good job of getting things done. Working with people, I have room to grow there. As you know, the Toastmasters tagline is where leaders are made. And this path, conjoined with the PRM role, has definitely forced me to use leadership muscles that I rarely flexed before. Mr. Toastmaster.